Dr. James Hawley of Southeast Texas Medical Associates joining us now. Happy New Year, Dr. Hawley.
Same to you.
Starting off our week, January week, very busy time of the year. Of course, even though the holidays are over, it's still a busy time, but it's a time to be able to reflect too on starting the new year. A lot of people making resolutions, a lot of things going on.
There are. In fact, I'm going to talk about a patient today.
Okay.
Miss Lillian Jackson. Hello, Mrs. Jackson. I told you this morning in the office I was going to talk about you today. And that would be a HIPPA violation, except I told her I was going to do it and got her permission to do it.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. I'm like, I'm obviously not the professional physician here.
HIPPA is the thing where we have to maintain the confidentiality, and should, and we always did, but now there are regulations that help us understand that. But this is the sweetest little lady, and I say this quietly because my wife may be watching, but every time I go in the exam room, I hug her neck and she kisses me, and she's a sweetheart. And we talked about two things today that have a lot to do with health. One is faith, and the other is contentment. We talked about the biblical story about the 10 lepers that Christ told them to go and wash in the pool of Siloam, and as they were going, they were healed, and one went back and thanked Christ for his healing of him. And Jesus said, were there not 10 that were healed? But there's only one that returns to give thanks, and he's a Samaritan. He wasn't even a person of the Jewish faith. And the whole principle was there are 10 that had faith, only one had a heart to be grateful. And we talked about how we should be very grateful for our life and our health. I won't tell you how old Miss Jackson is, but she's a little bit older than I am. And we both agreed that if either one of us died suddenly, we would not be complaining about what we didn't have, but be grateful for what we did have. She has a loving family surrounding her and just a delightful lady. And I told her the story of my father. When my father was in his final illness, we consulted an attorney who said, I know your father. He's a peculiar man. And I took offense to that. And he said, well, maybe I misspoke myself. He looked up the definition of peculiar and read it to me. He said, unusual, special, one of a kind. He said, that was your dad. He said, perhaps you thought I meant it in secondary definition, which is odd or eccentric. Your father wasn't odd, he wasn't eccentric. And I remembered that. And when my father passed away, I wrote an article about if he were peculiar, what was his peculiarity? And it was that he was so contented. There was nothing that he wanted, nothing that would make him happy. We talked about that last week with the chocolate. And Mrs. Jackson and I shared a wonderful, heartfelt, with her daughter, expression of our faith, our gratitude, and our contentment. And those things, if you can achieve them, you will live longer, you will live better. Covetousness is one of the things that will shorten your life. Contentment is one of the things that will lengthen your life. And the life you live will be better than if you only lived 50 years than if you lived 100 years when you were covetous, you lusted after what other people had, or you were envious of other people. And we talked about those things. We did some medical stuff, but that was the most fun.
Well, and a lot of times stress and you're mentally what you are worried about or something like that, that can affect
Absolutely.
The rest of you.
One of the assessments we do on every patient we see, we do it once a year, is a stress assessment. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with, does your faith impact your life? Do you get good sleep? Do you eat breakfast every morning? Do you do some exercise? Do you have a relative that lives within 50 miles? Do you have people that you can talk to about your problems? And it's communication. These are the things that decrease the stress level and improve our health. Cardiovascular risk is aggravated by stress because your epinephrine levels go up, your insulin levels go up, and all these things are toxic and elevated levels of the sort. If you can achieve gratitude, if you can achieve faith, if you can achieve contentment, you will live longer and you live weller. That's healthy living.
Right. Good point. And we will try to start off the year grateful, right?
Excellent.
Thank you, Dr. Hawley. We appreciate it.